Why are foreign airlines quietly pulling out of the US market? This is the question at the heart of what is happening right now, and the answer goes far beyond what any press release can capture. One by one, foreign airlines are retreating. From the United States, not with dramatic announcements, but with calculated surgical withdrawals. Yet, in Washington and among the broader public, few seem to be asking the deeper question: why now? Take Iceland's Play Airlines as an example. After investing years into building a presence in the US, Play is shutting down all its US operations by October. Every single route from Stewart, Boston, and Baltimore will be gone. This is not a mere seasonal adjustment or a temporary suspension. It is a total market exit. Meanwhile, Air Canada is eliminating 5 US routes this winter: Detroit, Indianapolis, Minneapolis, Nashville, and Tampa. Again, these are not short-term cancellations. They are strategic withdrawals from routes that no longer make sense for the carrier. There are no new sanctions, no trade disputes, and no government directives forcing these moves. On paper, these look like routine corporate decisions. But when multiple airlines, not just low-cost upstarts but national flag carriers, start walking away from one of the world's largest and most lucrative travel markets, the pattern demands attention. Play Airlines is the most visible example because it is abandoning the US entirely, but it is far from alone. Air Canada is scaling back. WestJet has already pulled several routes. Porter and Flair, smaller Canadian airlines, are following suit. Across the Atlantic, Europe's major carriers are signaling the same intentions. Lufthansa is quietly cutting back US capacity. Air France KLM has reported a noticeable drop in US-bound bookings, more than 2%. A number small. Enough to go unnoticed at first glance, but significant for an airline that has counted on steady transatlantic demand for decades. These are not impulsive cuts. Airlines are acting carefully, recalibrating where their planes go, based on data that suggests the US market is becoming less predictable and less profitable. The real question isn't why a few airlines are adjusting a few routes. It is why so many well-established international carriers are making the same decision at the same time. Look at the numbers behind this shift. Canadian bookings into the US have not just dipped. In key markets, they have collapsed. Some industry estimates show a year-over-year decline of over 70%. In some corridors, the drop reaches 76%, leaving hundreds of thousands of seats unfilled. Air Canada alone has already slashed more than 300,000 US-bound seats from its schedule. European airlines see similar warning signs. Lufthansa is evaluating its US routes, bracing for softer demand that is not expected to recover soon. Airlines across the European Union are facing weaker than expected bookings for US destinations, a trend that goes beyond normal seasonal ups and downs. When the data shifts this sharply, airlines do not wait and hope for the best. They cancel flights, redeploy aircraft, and focus on markets that offer more stability and better margins. What is causing this sudden lack of demand? Rising fuel prices and occasional border bottlenecks play a role, but the bigger driver is corporate strategy. This is not panic cutting. Lufthansa's leadership has openly acknowledged that demand for US routes has plateaued even as their planes flew near full capacity earlier this year. Now they are planning deliberate capacity reductions. Industry data shows that Canadian airlines have pulled more than 320,000 US-bound seats from schedules through October of next year. Forward bookings are down over 70%. When there is no demand, the flights disappear. Empty seats lead to route cuts, and these cuts ripple outward into local economies. Border cities and tourism hubs feel this first. Travel between Canada and the US has dropped by 70%, draining hotels, restaurants, and attractions in places that once depended heavily on cross-border visitors. Conversely, US travelers continue flying out in large numbers, keeping outbound bookings strong. For instance, Air France KLM reports a small but steady rise in inbound bookings from Americans heading to Europe, but not the other way around. This imbalance has real consequences when inbound travelers disappear, but outbound ones remain. The local economies around airports suffer. Hotels lose guests. Retail spending in airport districts declines. Rental car companies, restaurants, and local attractions lose millions in revenue. In some US cities near the border, like Buffalo, Detroit, and Seattle, hotels are seeing double-digit drops in occupancy. According to industry data from CBRE, retail sales in airport zones are down as much as 12% compared to last year. Airports themselves are being squeezed. Many spent years and millions of dollars expanding terminals, building international gates, and forging partnerships with overseas carriers. Now, with those carriers pulling back, terminals sit half empty while airports scramble to cover maintenance costs and staffing for gates that no longer generate revenue. Consider Stewart Airport in New York. Until now, Iceland's Play Airlines provided its only transatlantic service. With Play's exit, Stewart loses its last direct link to Europe. For local travelers, that means inconvenience. For the regional economy, it means a sudden loss of inbound spending, hotel taxes, and airport jobs. Revenue streams that are not easily replaced once gone. Meanwhile, the planes that once served these US routes are not sitting idle. Airlines are moving them to markets where the numbers look better. WestJet is adding flights to Europe, boosting service to Dublin and Edinburgh. Air Canada is reallocating capacity to strengthen domestic and European routes. Lufthansa and other Star Alliance members have announced cuts of up to 15% in US long-haul capacity, shifting aircraft to routes with more growth potential and lower risk. Middle Eastern and Asian carriers are filling in gaps where they see opportunity. Airlines like Emirates, Qatar Airways, and Turkish Airlines are expanding US routes, but also adding more connections within Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, strengthening hubs that pull travelers away from the traditional US gateway model. Even Chinese carriers, which once aggressively targeted US routes, are now redeploying capacity inward and toward emerging Asian markets. The result is a slow but steady erosion of the US's status as a central global hub. A healthy aviation ecosystem depends on a balanced flow of passengers in both directions. When the inbound side shrinks while the outbound remains steady, the system destabilizes. It affects more than just airlines. It affects trade, academic exchanges, and even diplomatic relationships that rely on easy travel connections. In the past, when airlines cut routes due to government restrictions or disputes, negotiations could restore service once tensions eased. What makes this retreat different is that no external force is causing it. These decisions are purely corporate. They happen behind closed doors, driven by financial models and risk assessments. And because they are voluntary, there is no policy or diplomatic agreement that can simply reverse them. We have seen a version of this before. In 2024, several US airlines halted service to Israel due to rising operational risk, despite no official flight bans. Now, foreign airlines are applying similar caution to their US operations, not because they are forced to, but because the numbers no longer add up. This shift means the US could slowly lose its position as the world's travel connector. While Americans keep flying overseas, the return links are thinning. Other regions and carriers are stepping in to absorb the demand and strengthen alternative hubs. Emirates, Qatar Airways, and Turkish Airlines are not just adding flights to the US. They are building stronger intercontinental networks that bypass traditional US gateways entirely. In Asia, Chinese airlines are expanding regionally. And within BRICS-aligned markets, instead of focusing on trans-Pacific expansion to the US. This reallocation of aircraft and investment could mean that once airlines build new profitable routes elsewhere, they have little incentive to return to a market where yields have disappointed. In summary, what is happening now is not a political standoff, a sudden crisis, or a temporary slowdown. It is a clear, steady pullback by foreign airlines from the US market, a move made carefully, quietly, and strategically. The decisions are rooted in data, demand, and profit margins, not emotion or government directives. As these airlines realign, the impact is felt at every level. Empty airport gates, falling hotel occupancy, lost tax revenue, and weaker local economies in cities that spent decades building their status as international gateways. For now, Americans may not notice much when they board a plane for Europe this summer. But on the return leg, they may find fewer options and less connectivity than ever before. In aviation, as in any global business, once a market loses its hub status, it can take years, even decades, to rebuild it. And for the United States, the quiet retreat happening now could mark the start of a new reality. A travel ecosystem where foreign airlines decide on their own terms that flying to America simply isn't worth it anymore.